Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 272. I am joined, as pretty much always, by Lucy.
Hello, I'm glad you dropped the craft beer this week, because I do not have a craft beer. I have a beer.
Okay.
Supposedly.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into that in a moment.
Foreshadowing!
We're also here with Aadil.
Hi!
I'm glad. Last week we were like, hey. This week we're like, yeah. So we all started
Literally what I remembered was how humdrum and you guys were all jovial. I'm like, let's keep that energy going.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I don't know why, because I'm more tired this week than I was last week. So. Yeah.
We'll see how quickly it just drops off as we go. So let's get into some beers and keep this energy up. Lucy, I want to come to you first because I'm interested in what's going on.
Yeah, I have no beer because I didn't go out and get any.
Mm-hmm.
So I have what is technically a beer.
Okay.
It is a Red Stripe.
Oh.
And
it's a tall bottle for a Red Stripe.
And it's
still the 330ml.
A red stripe.
I'm used to the
Stubby.
Oh, the little
stubs, yeah.
This is a Soral flavored lager beer, 3.6%.
Oh.
I like Soral. Usually have it around Christmas time, with rum rather than in beer form. But yeah, I've had a couple of these before, but I can't remember anything about it because it was just like, yeah, I'm thirsty. Let me have something that's kind of like a beer.
Fair.
I just remember that it's not quite like a beer, and I think the last couple of times I just poured some gin in it, so
Right.
because there wasn't really any white rum. So, but yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
What's
today.
the percentage on it?
3.6.
Oh wow.
So, barely anything.
Okay.
Is it even a beer? Yes.
I'd say no, but
No.
I don't.
I tried to be kind.
I mean, there's obviously nothing on the label, and I like Red Stripe. I mean, I'm half Jamaican, so it's in my DNA. I like Red Stripe, and I like Sorrel. So I'm going to drink this Sorrel lager beer.
Sounds perfect. We'll see how it is in a moment. Aadil, I'll come to you next. What are you drinking this week?
What I was doing was I was looking up, because somehow this brewer is new to me.
Okay.
Because I have this. Look at these cats. Look at this
Nice.
gorgeous art. Cartoon cats drinking over a barrel with a mouse.
10 out of 10.
And it is the Drinks for You Pale Ale. It's what it is. The art was by Jordan Pryke. It's a pale ale. It's 4%. And it's brewed and canned in Bristol.
Oh.
I'm just stared at this in the shop going, how do I not know anything about Drinks for You?
Because a new brewery pops up every 28 hours in Bristol. Like, you wake up the next day and it's like, oh, check Twitter. It's like, oh, a new brewery, eh?
I mean, I just stared at it and I'm like, well, Lucy's not wrong. Somehow, yeah. So they're on Minor Road.
Oh, are they? In
Yeah.
St. Werburgh's.
Apparently.
Nice.
How do people buy it then if there's only minors living there?
Oi.
Dropped in a deal. Nice pun for you there.
But yeah, so that is what I'm going to be drinking, and the internet has no information about Drinks for You because there's a Drinks for You Bristol.co.uk.
What is Drinks for You? That just sounds like a standard corner shop
Yeah,
and
it
it's
does,
a
yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
It seems like a shop that
Mm.
maybe started making their own beer, but also drinksforyoubristol.co.uk sure doesn't. It sells you other people's beer and tequila. You know,
It's not craft beers for you. Drinks.
yeah, drinks for you. Minor Road.
Fine.
So no. Anyway, I'm gonna crack this
Sure.
pale ale, and pour it. Hopefully not terribly, and maybe we can solve the mystery at
Oh,
some
mate,
point.
I'd love it if it was just, like the guy who runs the shop or woman who runs the shop, they've just started homebrewing and they're like, yeah, just start selling it through the shop. Why not? Fuck it.
Well, that's what I was hoping to find out. And then I promptly forgot when I got back from the bottle. Oh, I hate to break it to you guys. Yes, I actually was also running late, and so I just went to the store at the end of my street to find the new brewery beer. So Lucy's just got this town bang on.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, you pay for it. It's very the cost of living in Bristol's quite high, so
That's why.
yeah,
That's the only
it
reason.
makes sense that they have a brewery on every
Just the
street
wealth and
corner.
choice of craft beers elevated those house prices so much.
Oh wait.
Ooh, more info.
Well, so if you look up their address, it's Fierce and Noble's address.
Oh.
But it has no. But
Mhm.
it just says drinks for you pale ale brewed in Camden, Bristol, 25 Minor Road, which is Fierce and Noble's address.
It's
so
a drug front.
maybe it is literally someone renting.
Yeah, little gypsy brewer
Space.
brewing out a Fierce and Noble or something, maybe.
So not a drug front. Okay.
I mean, there's plenty of those in Bristol as well. So
True.
Wait, when was this sold? According to. Fierce and Noble. This location was sold in December 2020.
he's just on estate agent websites now.
Yeah, sorry. But I mean, maybe Fierce and Noble sold it, and this is a new thing, is what I'm saying.
Maybe. Maybe
Anyway,
they've moved on.
But I mean, Drinks
One
for
to
You
look into.
has
Yeah.
bad SEO anyway. I will stop rambling because I tried to do that before and then interrupted myself trying to let you go twice, I think. So what's going on, Ben?
I'm drinking a Deya. Not Bristol, but just up the road. This is Written in the Dust, a double IPA, 8%. It has got just a soft, juicy, delicious dipper. Dry hopped with Galaxy, Simcoe, Enigma, and Vic Secret. And as with Deya, that's all they write.
I was thinking, is that a new one? I was thinking Dust My Broom.
Yes. This has got a big kind of purple toad on the front.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah. With a putting a record into a jukebox. Because why not? But yeah, I will get into this in a moment. Lucy, come back to you. How refreshed are you?
Very. It's
Good.
very sweet. But Soral, well, yeah, Soral. Usually, yeah, pile it full of the sugar and ginger. I usually have it maybe with a tip more rum, or sometimes I like water it down because people sometimes make it a bit sweet, and I'm not a fan of sweet drinks. It's very sweet, but you can taste the sorrel, so that's good. It's very much like a ginger beer. If you've never had sorrel before, it's probably a bit hard to distinguish what's different about it from like a ginger beer. I'd say like sorrel's a bit more herbal, maybe a bit lighter and more berry-like. I mean, just because it's red, I mean, it's steeped like flowers, so rather than a fruit, but it still gives you those kind of like berry-like flavors, but getting a lot of ginger and some like slightly warming spices. That's why tend to have it like winter time around Christmas. because you do have that warmth from the spice in it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what makes it a beer rather than just a Soral drink. Maybe it's the carbonation, but that just adds to like it being more refreshing and stuff like that. So like on a summer day, like this is great. If you're not a beer fan, then if you thought, oh, it's a lager and something, don't let that put it off you. Put that off you. It's more like very much like a Bacardi Breezer, where it's like there's hardly any alcohol in this. You could probably knock back 10 of them and not even stagger or sway or anything like that. Just 10 in a row, and you'd be like, I feel fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'd just say a bit on the sweet side, but I think that's just slightly pared back by giving you that carbonation, giving you that lightness. But yeah, as I say, I like Soral. I think I'd probably prefer this if I was like on holiday or something. To have this over a red stripe.
Okay.
Because even though I like red stripe, it can be a bit gassy, a bit heavy. This is much lighter, and it just tastes like very much like it's like a slur almost. Where it's just like, yeah, I just want a fizzy drink, something a bit fizzy that's gonna, refresh me, but is not gonna make me, tanked up afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it.
Good.
Yeah, I'd probably wouldn't buy it. I'd probably be like, okay, I'm probably just gonna spend my money on like actual craft beer. But it was in my nan's fridge, and you know what? It's not bad for it. I think the first time I had it was like in the garden. It was hot, and it was just like, yeah, it really hit the spot. But yeah, go on, Red Stripe.
Perfect.
Representing the folks.
Yeah, I love that as well. That it's just like, I've got nothing to drink. What do? Don't know. Look in Nan's fridge, see what's there.
Yeah. She doesn't drink beer, but if I told her this is not beer, you could drink, then there might be less for me. So
yeah, just don't ever tell her. That's fine. Aadil, we will come to you. Back for the drinks for you. Beer.
Pale ale. It's got a really lovely nose, slightly floral and quite tropical. Think more mango than passion fruit. And like not rose floral, but like a light, I don't know, maybe lilac-y. It's just sort of slightly perfumey, but really light.
I think that was a good word that I should have used for my beer. It's got a very floral taste to it, because obviously it's a flower, but might be a bit on the nose. But thank you, Aadil.
Versus in the nose, as this one was.
You don't want to drink via your nose. That might drown you.
Interesting.
What was the style again? Sorry, I forgot.
Pale ale.
Just a pale ale. Okay.
The ale's so nice, it says it twice. Putting the ale in it. Pale ale. Ale.
Yeah, can't spell pale. Ale.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a better way to say that. Versus the ramblings I had. It's actually got quite a bit of bitterness on the back end, which is why I said, oh, interesting, because it's slightly sweet, lightly. It's a sweetness, like a fruity sweetness, like kind of like a tangerine, but without the citrus. Just the light acidity and the quite peaky sweetness of a tangerine, but without the sort of citrus back end.
Right.
And then you get that mango slightly more on the passion fruit end, the tropical taste, and it's like the core. And then there's this lovely bitterness. Just comes, I want to say, over top of the core sort of tropically taste and sort of falls down and then just sits really low, because it's kind of, what I mean by that is it's like, oh, that's quite like, oh, that's like a not quite resinous bitterness, but then it sort of starts like when we're full on the fruitiness, but it feels like it's above it. It feels like really like, oh, it's doing that. But by the time the fruitiness is fading away and you're just left with that bitter, it's also sort of, like I said, kind of faded down. So it kind of comes in right when at the peak of the rest of the taste, and you're like, oh shit, and then but it fades quite quickly, but it just doesn't fade. It doesn't fade to the same degree. So you're just left with this like peak of bitterness, and then yeah, it just sort of rolls off, which is kind of inviting not to do anything else because it rolls off from such a high spot. And that's not to say it's like a bitter punch. You can tell by the way I'm quaffing it. I'm not like wincing at it, but because it rolls off like that, it just invites it, and the finish is long but quite low. I don't feel like I need to refresh that quickly now that I'm not tasting it, because I still have this lingering taste, and there's still, like I said, that like tropical and slightly tangerine-y sweetness. Those are still there, kind of low level. So I'm left with a really lovely finish.
Nice.
And it has all the elements from before, so you could easily nurse this, but also it's very tasty. It's a very interesting beer. But it definitely starts that, and you're thinking, all right, okay, pale ale, but not one of those fruit punches from a few years back, but just like got a bit of a fruity core. Cool. I'll probably finish this off really quickly because I want that burst. But because that burst is almost immediately accompanied by the bitter, and the bitter finish is so long, it's like, oh, I'm still tasting the core of this beer. I don't need to. It's like this weird trade-off where you, like, on the first taste, I was like, okay, I know this beer. It's like, oh, I don't know this beer.
Nice.
Which is really nice, yeah. We'll see how fast it can go. It can go. It might go. Will go. God, I'm terrible at words today. Anyway, that's my beer. Also, I don't even know if I showed it to you. It's real.
Yeah, you did.
Real pale. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
another one put the pin in for the Bristol. Will it be on the East Brewery Bristol Trail?
No, they're not
it's-
quite East Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
Yeah, but nothing. The trail doesn't go that far.
No.
They need to make a west, north, south, south, southwest, north.
But someone
east.
did come up with there was like a craft beer map of Bristol that someone put together, which showed all the breweries, all the bars that kind of specialise in it and stuff. I think there'd probably, would need to be an updated version, because that was a few years ago now, and so many different places, whether it be bars or bottle shops or breweries, have kind of popped up. And
They could
you can
make
your
a
own
trail
route.
for. They could make a trail for every cardinal direction,
Mm-hmm.
and
I mean,
they'd have probably about 20 breweries.
Yeah, you absolutely could. Yes, yeah, you definitely could. Maybe not south so much. There's not so many people sort of south of the river. There's a few. There's places to go. Definitely. A few different
Bloody
pubs to meet.
Southerners.
Oh, that's it.
Weirdos, aren't they?
But yeah, I mean, as we joke about, you can, throw a stone in Bristol and you hit someone who either brews beer or sells it. So it is everywhere, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But we'll move on out of Bristol to this Deya, written in dust. It follows the lines of the Deya beers that I've had more recently. Not being that big, juicy double IPA sort of flavour, and being on that more kind of earthy side. And I don't know whether they've changed maybe kind of the yeast that they're using, or a different sort of malt build, but something in their main kind of recipe, I suppose, when they're chucking all these different hops and playing with things, something is a little bit more consistent, that is giving us more of this kind of earthy tone to these beers. And it's got a lot of sort of like ripe melon in it, but it is that ripe melon flavour which kind of pushes that more sort of earthy feel to this beer, and it looks lovely. It's a lovely looking beer.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid. It looks like juice. It's got a nice light sort of fluffy head to it, and the nose and the flavour match quite well. So maybe it's not on the nose. It's maybe not quite as ripe of a melon. Maybe a slight hint of something sweeter in there as well. But when you get into the flavour, that's kind of gone, and you are hit with this very, very ripe melon flavour. It's creamy though, which definitely lifts it as well. So whilst you've got that more bitter, earthy sort of flavour to it, it has this nice creaminess in there as well, which I think kind of saves it a little bit from just being kind of a bit dirgy and dirty, you know, with it leaning more towards that earthy sort of side. It definitely feels a little bit grummy, you know. So that lightness,
Yummy.
that creaminess to it, definitely in the mouthfeel, definitely lift it just that little bit extra.
Yeah, I've been passing like most of the times, probably like now 3 times I've been to Cottridge Wines.
Mm-hmm.
I've been just going past the Deya beers.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm seeing less new ones. I'm still seeing a lot of the saturated series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there are any new ones that either of you have tried that are like very good. I think the last really good ones that I had was Big Hot Pillow. I loved that one.
That was nice.
Yeah.
There was another one, that was brewed very close to that as well, which I thought was really nice. Which
you really liked it. Yeah.
The name. I might have drank it on an episode actually, but the name is
I think
gone.
you did, yeah.
And I had another one the other day, which. Oh no, it's not even going to be in my recycling because that was taken away yesterday, so I can't even have a look. But that was very nice. It was more in that kind of sort of juicy vein rather than this more earthy sort of side to them. So
yeah. I think I prefer Deya with those big bold fruit flavors, and
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't really go to them looking for bitterness and stuff like that, or just like that earthiness that you described, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I don't think many people do. Honestly,
I like my earthy beers.
Mm-hmm.
I do like them. Yeah. Like, I love a good like red ale or amber ale or something like that. Get that real earthy taste in them. It feels like you're just eating dirt. You feel close to nature.
But you want something like if you want an earthy beer, you want something that maybe finishes with a bit more kind of dankness in it as well, don't you? Like it takes you through that full sort of range of flavors rather than it just being here's a bit of ripe melon and it's got a sort of this little bit of an earthy sort of finish to it, and that's kind of all that's going on. You want something that does flow through that section of kind of flavors really, and then gives you something that has a bit more bitterness. Like this doesn't, even with those earthy tones, it doesn't have that bitterness to it. And again, that would be something that would elevate it again, but I don't know if they could balance and get both that kind of lovely creamy softness that this has with a big bitter finish on it as well, whilst maintaining these kind of lighter earthy ripe melon kind of notes to it. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's not going to stop me from
drinking it and enjoying it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because their beers are just the quality of the beers. They taste nice regardless. But yeah, I had a nice Schwartz beer from Whiplash, which was very good on Sunday. Gosh, what was the name of that? Can't remember. I think I might have checked in on the tap, but yeah, it had that nice earthiness. It had like those. It had quite a nice chocolatey fruitiness as well, which is nice. Yeah,
Whiplash
really
can do
beer.
no wrong.
No, not in my eyes. They're fantastic.
Good. So there are our beers to start the episode off with. Let's jump then into our topics and games for this week. And I thought I'd launch in because I've got a very short talking point this week. I've had another very, very busy week of work. And obviously we didn't record until a little bit later in the week. So it's only been sort of 5 days since we last recorded. I haven't played anything. I've not... I mean, I've started games on Game Pass just to get those little login points
Yeah.
and quests and things like that on the app.
Downloaded Battlefield 5 and launched the game and uninstalled it. So, yeah.
Perfect, nice. I did actually the one I did load up. One of the quests is for Grounded, so I installed that and I loaded it up and I got onto the starting screen and I ran around for about 3 minutes and then turned it off.
Yeah.
The quest was to get an achievement, and I'm like, right, I'm running around, I'm picking a load of stuff up, I'm doing some things, I discovered something, no achievement yet, right, now I've got work, I'll turn it off. So I will go back to that at some point and explore it a little bit more. But
I didn't realise until I saw those requests, those quests rather, Game Pass quests, that it had achievements, because I thought, oh, it's still in early access, and early access games don't tend to launch with achievements.
Right,
Usually
okay.
have to have 1.0 and then they have achievements. So I was like really interested. I haven't gone and done this yet to see. Okay, how much is in this game now? I know they've been doing updates, but is it at a point where I can play through the story and get enough out of that from like I don't know, a 20-hour experience, let's say? Because I played that when it first launched, and it's really charming. It's really, there's something about it. It must be that like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids like kind of nostalgia.
Yeah.
But it seems like a fun game that you can, like, you know, it's all about crafting and, you know, stuff like that. It seems like it could go into like the kind of like, you know, survival sim way, but it seems like they were building like a story mode. So I'd love to see if I can just, you know, spend 15-20 hours in that, complete a story, and then be done with it, because there's something to it. I think that game's got a really, I don't know if the community's still thriving, but it certainly had a big splash upon release. So we'll see. It may be one of those sleeper hits like Sea of Thieves that everyone seems to play now.
Yeah. Completely. It does. It definitely seems the release was in the same sort of vein as Sea of Thieves. I guess they got to a point in development where they went, well, we've got a working build, and Xbox went, look, Sea of Thieves have done this. It could be something similar, considering it is a multiplayer game as well. It very much fits that model, and I imagine that Xbox have pushed them to kind of release on this sort of path. So yeah, they have just put out an update, I think, which is why I guess it's now saying go in and play it. Why the quest wants you to go and play it. But apart from Grounded, I've also been playing through and have been writing about in the background, ready to sort of start releasing some articles around Halo. And I thought I'd kind of ask the question and have the discussion around whether you guys have any older, not let's not jump back too far, but kind of more modern but older franchises which you would kind of recommend to people if they hadn't actually played anything of. Like, I've played Halo. I played the first and the second games, and that was kind of it for me. Because I didn't have an Xbox. The girlfriend I had at the time did, which is how I played both of those games. A lot of my friends had Xboxes, so we used to get TVs and push them kind of back to back and put two Xboxes together and LAN sort of 8-player kind of Halo matches, multiplayer matches and things like that. So I've played a lot of the first two games, and I ran through now Reach, Halo and Halo 2, which were both the anniversary editions, and I'm at the halfway point now, having started 3. But I will say overall I'm very much enjoying Halo.
Is this the Master Chief Collection?
It is the Master Chief Collection, yes, playing it on PC. But is there, like, I kind of thought about it, and I don't know whether there are any kind of big series or things that I would actually recommend to people these days, to be like, right, go back to number 1 and just play through all of the games. So it made me think, what do you guys kind of think? Is there anything that any series that you would say, even if you've only played a couple of them, that really sort of stand out and make you think, yeah, maybe I should sort of finish the trilogy or the next couple of games, and would tell people to go back and start from the beginning of these kinds of things?
I think the key here is like recent, because like yeah, there's been like everything just gets remade and relaunched nowadays. So yeah. Aadil, did you have an answer? Like,
I mean, I guess I have a question about the question.
Okay.
That's the kind of asshole I am.
No, that's fine. We're a discussional
Philosopher.
podcast. There's no rules here, do we? Like...
Well, no. What I mean is, like, there are some series I can think of that I would fully recommend a few entries of. But are you saying specifically something that people should go back to and roll through, like you are with Halo?
That yes,
because I would find that last one much more challenging outside of this small indie series, Super Mario.
yeah. Do you think it makes more sense if it's like a story arc? Because I think that's where, even though I know nothing about the Halo story, but you said that you were playing in chronological order. Do you think it makes more sense if it's like, yes, you should experience this for the story arc? It's like a traditional trilogy in like
maybe like if someone, like, if we're having this conversation with someone and they would to say oh yeah, I'd absolutely go back to say like Uncharted and play that through from the first game all the way through to Lost Legacy, hit all 5 games. They don't necessarily all follow the same kind of story. A lot of the time they're sort of like self-contained, whereas Halo, whilst at least some of them are sort of self-contained, they do still follow on from each other.
Same characters, same universe. It's not like a cut-off point where, like, say, Andromeda was to the original Mass Effect. It's like...
Yes.
I think Gears is a good one.
Okay.
Sticking with Xbox. I'm not a Halo person, but I love Gears. Gears is... Even though the story is like, I couldn't tell you much about it, but they're just great games anyway.
Well, yeah,
fantastic games.
Even for seeing, like, and we've seen a slew of kind of third-person cover-based shooters, and kind of Gears really pushed that from the start. So it seems like Gears would be a good series to go back to if you're interested in kind of seeing where these, where the Division, Outriders, where these kind of games sort of get their basis from, essentially.
Maybe don't play Judgment thinking of that, actually. Made by People Can Fly, but even Judgment was okay, but yeah, I think Gears is good, because I remade the first one, and they're all on Game Pass. I think that's a really... Because when I think of, like, Metroid Dread that is coming out, it's like, that's 30 years worth of Metroid, probably more at this point. It's hard for people to go back to the old games and something like that, but imagine if they could. Imagine if they were all reasonably on the Switch, it shouldn't be a problem now, And people were like, okay, this is the 5th game in the series, I want to know what happened to Metroid and the little baby Metroid and Samus, etc. Why I love Game Pass and like back compat is like, if Gears 5 comes out, or Halo, like Halo 6 or whatever it is, Infinite, whatever it is.
Infinite is just going to keep going forever.
Yeah, it's going to be a live service game.
Yeah,
they don't need to make any more.
There's no end to the story, it just keeps going.
Yeah, because when that was announced, I was like, I've always wanted to go back and play Halo, maybe I should play Halo. And it's like, it's just there in the Master Chief Collection.
Absolutely.
Even if it wasn't... like in that collection, it would have still been on Xbox. And that's why I just think, it's just a great thing to, like, okay, I want to... Gears 6 is coming out 2 years from now. I want to catch up on the story. They're all there. And it's like, I think a lot of what you're saying, Ben, it's like, what would you suggest to people? What can you reasonably suggest where it isn't just an absolute ball ache? to go play those things.
Yes,
You know,
very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Game Pass is great for that, and not as a huge sort of sidebar to this, but wasn't there some kind of Nintendo monthly subscription based thing for playing online and like NES and SNES games?
It's called the Tetris 99 plus online. That's what it is. It's like you get online to play Tetris 99 and nothing else. Yeah, it's so meager that library. Have you like jumped into any of those old games? I have. I personally have. I've nothing from you. Just for the audio listeners, Aadil's shaking his head. He's like, no, not gone back.
No, and it's not because
Not even
honestly
played a
I forget
Mario?
it exists. I have actually no, I have dipped into the Marios occasionally, but and it's not because they're low fidelity. It's just gaming hours or just it's for some reason I haven't had the hankering to go back to. But knowing that they're there, it's a very classic nostalgia gamer point I'm at where it's like I'm really glad I could do this. Won't.
Yeah.
Really glad I could.
For a massive nerd like me, I do go back. It's like I've been wanting to play through Donkey Kong Country 3, because I played through 1 and 2. And I went back to like there's a game called Magical Drop HD or whatever it is for like some Neo Geo or something, and it's like Money Puzzle Exchanger if anyone's ever played that. Sort of like a Tetris puzzle game. Anyway, yeah, I do go back and play that. Sometimes I just get hankering. It's like, maybe I should play like the best game ever made and just load up Super Mario Bros. 3 and play through that until World 8, and then I get annoyed.
Oh, it's that is a terrible world.
Yeah.
Like, just because the skill curve isn't great compared to the rest of the game.
Ghost houses, and it's like I never know where to go. I still to this day can't remember where to get my little Tanuki suit and fly up, and which door to go into. Anyway, yeah, it's terrible then. They put like 5 games in there like every quarter, and it's like a game you've never even heard of. It's like Joe Max Tennis 16 for John Madden.
Lee Carvello putting challenge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bubble 8. And it's like, who asked for this? Nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody on planet Earth asked for this. There's one person.
Yeah, Miyamoto.
Why?
He's just like, I love this game. Put it in.
I
Done.
love this random game. Yeah, it's awful. We should not speak of it because it's actually like very annoying how bad it is.
I
only keep my subscription because it's like I can get it for like £15 now, and it's like I like playing Tetris 99.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice. Aadil, you said you had something.
I do. I have a couple.
Okay.
I was just casually going through my Steam library looking for a series of words that start with the same titles that start with the same word. Be like, what do I think of that title? Turns out that takes a long time when you have
6,000 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
More,
so
isn't
my cheeky answer. Oh, it's not that high. My cheeky answer, of course, is Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Play those games if you can find people to play with.
Yeah.
They're great. They're still great. There's a couple new, like, it's becoming a genre somehow years later.
Yep.
They're announced games. So I just wanted to highlight cooperative shooters are great. Like, there should be more stuff like that. But I guess so. Originally, I was going to cheekily say Final Fantasy, but I actually don't think that's why I asked the question. Thumb entries.
There's some duds, yeah.
But I think Fallout is my answer.
Oh.
That too,
because
Fallout 1?
I really liked those CRPGs, and I know it changes drastically between types. I've never played 4. so that's where I can't comment.
Sure.
But Fallout 1 and 2 are really great games, and that's when you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be. It's about the world and staying in the world, etc. And maybe not like super directly connected plot wise. Fallout 1 and 2 are great. 3 is fantastic. New Vegas is mwah. Play those games. They're great.
Yeah,
I think-
four was rubbish.
Was it?
It was just boring.
But there's a dog.
Yeah, but
Isn't that
so,
free?
so no. So in 4, there is a dog in 4.
Dog
You
me,
can have
the dog who
companions,
cut.
and
Yeah.
you can just swap the dog out. So
Why would you do that,
I mean,
though?
you can have the dog continuously.
Can't you have
But-
like a radioactive bear? Or is that like Far Cry?
Or I don't know. Or is that Fallout 76? Again, now your entry, Aadil, you've got to play Fallout 76 now as well.
All right, fine, fuck it. I take it back.
Yeah.
Take it back. No more Fallout. I don't want to
think-
do this.
I think we'd be remiss to say Mass Effect because people like those games.
Then-
Especially with the
Not my
remastered
cup
sort of
of tea.
trilogy out now as
Yeah.
well. And Andromeda is about 40p on most stores whenever it goes on sale. And that's fine.
I would say
Game.
Batman, but I would not wish
Arkham Knight on anyone.
even my worst enemy.
Ooh.
Again, I went
That
through the
game
list.
is-
I'm like, oh, it depends.
It's trash. It's awful. It's the worst game I've ever played in my life.
What about? And I think this is, you've got to be down for some bullshit for this one. But what about Metal Gear Solid? Not Metal Gear.
I'd say that's a good
Not
one.
Metal Gear. So you
Yeah.
don't have to go
Metal
back
Gear
to
Solid,
the
yeah,
kind of the first Gear, but Metal Gear
MSX.
Yeah.
Solid, starting from Metal Gear Solid, going through the modern games.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah. Although
I've never played 4. I've never even touched 4.
4's great.
Isn't
I've
it-
touched the other ones.
4 got so much shit because the first 4 hours are 3.5 hours worth of cutscenes.
yes.
But-
I mean,
I think that would
That's
It's a
annoy me.
fantastic game.
yeah, but Ben, under your Fallout rules, that means you have to go play Survive.
Oh shit! I didn't even think about Survive.
Turns out this is terrible because every series is being exploited as a shitty live service game by a different developer than the original ones, and no real relation to the creative team, and that makes it bankrupt both morally and narratively. I mean, maybe, just maybe. How about this one? Although I can't remember how good the later entries were, but I would definitely play through them all. F.E.A.R. Fear.
Oh,
Oh.
Do you remember
I've
that
never
game?
played. I've
Yes.
never played any of them.
I remember
they were
Fear 2.
spooky.
I remember Fear 2 a lot.
Fear 3 was very good as well.
Okay.
I think there might have been a fourth one,
Oh.
which I don't remember. Fear, you say? Fear was like a... Yeah, it was a... Oh, no, there was. It was Fear...
I just remember the cover being brown. Because
Yeah.
everything was brown back in the day.
I think its Extraction Point is the weird side more than DLC game
Okay.
that I don't remember anything about. But I really liked Fear and Fear 2 and Fear 3. Fear 1 and 2 are really, they're about experimentations on people, and there's a creepy little girl who appears, and I remember playing it late at night and being actually spooked while also having the giant guns, because it doesn't matter because you can't shoot ghosts, but you can shoot the other guys who are also somehow embroiled in this. And also, I don't know, longtime listeners of the podcast will remember that there was a period of time when I first moved back to Bristol where I figured out how to cobble together a graphics card to my MacBook Air such that I could run
Yes.
my HTC Vive off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also acquired software that allowed me to basically make any Direct3D 9, I think it was at the time, probably, maybe 10, game on VR
Oh.
reasonably well. And I played Fear 1, and that was just for the first few hours, and it was scary in VR. Scary in VR. Because again, I don't know if you remember, there was just these points where, especially in this first hour or
Climbing up a
so,
ladder or something like that.
whether you
Oh,
walk into a
wait.
house and then you're looking around looking for someone who killed someone, and you're you hear this weird backstory, and then there's just a child's laughter, and then it whibs it's just like this ghostly child appears and then zips out, and you're like, wait, did that just happen? And then you start getting the weird, funky stuff. It worked like a charm on me when I was whatever. When did it come out? Probably in university time, 2005. Yeah, so when I was in undergrad, playing at night in the basement suite I lived in, and it worked like a charm. When I was still in my PhD a few years back, rigged up to an overheating MacBook Air. Great.
I think to qualify that it has to be 3 games on. So I was thinking of quite a few things, but it's like these are only 2 games, sort of like Portal and
Yeah.
How about Red Dead? That's 3 games now.
Revolver, Redemption,
I've
Redemption
never
Online.
played Revolver.
You got to play the online component as per Ben's rule.
Yeah, true. Which you can buy as a standalone thing now.
Yes.
True. Which is apparently meant to be okay. I think that's an alright one.
I mean, it's definitely
Bioshock?
nowhere near as well supported as GTA 5 online, is it?
No,
So-
it'll never be.
No.
Oh no.
But Bioshock.
I think speaking of GTA,
Oh,
maybe GTA is a good one.
so I did think about.
I
GTA as well.
almost said that, but I thought it was too easy because I didn't think it was like a hey, go back and play this. But I mean, are we talking OG?
I mean,
Through-
you
including
could.
London?
I mean, GTA. We've got
I
sort
think
of like the
every
modern
single game in that
section
series
from
is solid.
from 3 onwards. I mean, even 2, which is kind of a bit naff narratively. It's set like in the future a little bit, and
It's also
sort of-
very pretty for the game of its time.
It absolutely is, and I have loads of memories of smashing through both 1 and 2, and even London, which is a really short experience actually. But you could buy London London was its own standalone thing. It wasn't even DLC to the first game; it was its own game that kind of came out. But I think all of those 3 games before you get to GTA 3 are solid games, definitely.
Yeah, because
I'll agree.
I mean, if we were gonna run out of time, and my topic, I was thinking, what's the topic I can talk about? I was like, GTA 6, discuss. But I think like, like even the stories in those games, apart from, I mean, I'm sure somebody could enjoy the story in 5, but I think they're solid. Like they may not hold up as well today, but I think they're good.
I mean, I think the problem with 5 is that it wants to be a heist movie for small parts of Act 3, but then has to deal with Act 1, 2, and all the other parts to stitch it together, and it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But like it does, and it's a little like, pardon the use of the term, schizophrenic in that sense. Let's actually no, I'll take that back because I don't need to use an ableist term. It's disjointed as fuck.
Yes.
But it's okay because a lot of time, I mean, it took me a long time to finish 4.
4 was
because
great. People rag on 4 so much.
And it's
love
because
4.
because of the incessant phone calls, but also like,
My
Hey,
God.
Nico, come and
but, like, I
bowl
think-
with me. It's like,
I think-
fuck off, Roman.
yeah, exactly. And there's like so much of the mini game stuff is required, and people didn't like that because they just wanted to get access to new guns and new areas of the city or whatever.
Yes.
But then you look at 5, and you realize how much, because they definitely swung the pendulum based on critique, right? 5 starts you out pretty much right away doing things, getting things, and then all of the ancillary stuff is basically optional, so you don't really do it. There's just like so many parts of that city that like some poor bastard worked for 8 months overtime, and like no one really sees it because there's no reason to go in there. And then like, and while even the spots in 4, which were not like get a phone call, go here, I ended up exploring the city a lot more because the game forced me to pay attention to the corners.
Yeah.
And then the corners it didn't force me to go to, I was kind of curious about. Well, except for finding seeing what happens when you drive an ATV up the ridge line and not fall or fall a million times to see if it's worth it to drive off the top. Spoiler alert, it's not. You know, except for weird like quests you give yourself when you notice a thing in a thing. GTA 5 just doesn't really get there.
No, I think...
What I'd say about GTA 5 is that all the prior games had character. GTA 5
Has
doesn't
4,
have
3
any
characters. 3 characters. You
It
can tell
doesn't have-
they were really impactful because I thought there were 4 for a second.
It was
There's 3.
Yeah.
Michael, Franklin,
Trevor.
Trevor.
Trevor, yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't have character. I think there was like, okay, we want to make the biggest world that we have, but it's like, just every single other game in that series, like whether you like the tone or not, they all had character. GTA 5 felt like a bit of a damp squib. It's like we have this world, but we haven't populated it with anything memorable or fun. Or
And it's one of those, when you were saying about 5 and not being forced to go to all of these kind of places and explore the map, I think that's something that San Andreas actually did really, really well, in that it didn't force you to go to places, but suddenly when you get the gangs kind of section of it and you've got to go and help out people and keep and win territory and stuff, suddenly you had to go everywhere. And then you think, well, while I'm here, let's see what's about. And it kind of gave you a reason to go to places, maybe a little bit limiting in that it's like, oh shit, it's now a tower defense game and I've just got to go over here and help people out. But it did push you to kind of go to places. I still think Vice City and San Andreas are the best 2 out of all.
It's because they're all like based on like films. It's like,
Yeah,
of
I
course,
mean, they're
you have like
homages.
Sopranos and Scarface and what's it called? Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube.
Boys in the Hood.
Why am I blanking on the
Boys in the Hood, yeah.
Yeah. So you like, to riff on those films, it's like, okay, maybe this is why they have character, but I don't think GTA 5 had any of that. Like, it was just nothing. It tried to riff on like the Sopranos stuff, but it's like, kind of did this in 3, but better.
Yeah.
Fellas, kind of Sopranos.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, is they were riffing on decades of film and they ran out of decades of film, which is why I think it's so disjointed, because they're like, oh, heist films were really big, probably the beginning of the development cycle is, right? Along with like the first set piece that's the beginning of the film very much feels kind of Tarantino-esque, but not like more like the Suicide Kings and all those bad like people trying to ape Tarantino. Those like just those movies that tried to do the split timeline stuff and multiple points of view, but didn't really like have a good enough dialogue, etc.
That's true.
But by the end of the development cycle, we're in the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. It's already over the hill, yet we're forcing this type of. Now it's not really split time.
Conspiracy now, yeah.
Yeah, but like you start with almost the non-linear, like the vibe of non-linear storytelling, and then you go to just ensemble storytelling for a big set piece that links together. And I can see how you think, well, the story lines link together in the non-linear one and make sense, and the storylines link together in the ensemble things to make sense, so we can mash these up. But they're very different genres. They don't play well together, and it just becomes like this bland mess with no depth.
Yeah, fully agree. That's a great analogy. Yeah,
completely.
So, what do y'all want from GTA 6?
I like how Lucy's
Let's jump into
Change
Lucy's
the topic.
topic. Let's jump into Lucy's topic after we've opened up some more beers, I think.
Oh, man.
It's time to open up another beer.
Already?
Yeah, Lucy.
I told you I would
beer
nurse this one.
Yeah, Soral beer must have got to my head. That was quick.
That 3.5% straight in there just nailed you completely. Do you have another beer this evening, Lucy? Are you drinking another Soral beer?
That's all I had.
That's fair. Absolutely. Aadil, you need some time to finish up your beer. Why don't I open mine first and just let you sort of nurse that one for a little bit. I am going to drink, there's so much water on my desk from all of the condensation coming off of it, the Pomona Island First Big Weekend Double IPA. There we go.
Ooh.
It is 8.2%, and it says, it was a beautiful day. And later that evening, Gaz introduced me to the power of double dry hopped DIPAs with Cryo Citra, Talus, Mosaic, and Motueka at pounds a litre. Pound signs a litre. 8.2%. What does it tell me? It's got some allergens on. Most of the malts are allergens. It doesn't tell me anything else. Nope, I don't get anything. So I would assume that the hops in this are Citra, Talus, Mosaic, and Motorracker. But we'll see. We
can't get much more in that. That's a lot of hops.
Yeah, in a lovely pink and yellow can. It stood out from all of the other ones on the shelf. So
I like the very like pale muted colours.
Absolutely.
Lilac and lime.
Yeah, and I haven't had a Pomona Island for ages. Another brewery I haven't had for ages is a Left-Handed Giant. Aadil, what have you got there?
How did you know this was Left-Handed Giant? The label isn't visual. Very distinct art style in their tins.
Yeah.
It's a Left-Handed Giant. It's very strange because it's a Stillwater artisanal upside down. I almost flipped the can. That would have been dumb. Just, like in a performative, it's upside down, I'll just read it this way, and then immediately spill this dot matrix. So the Stillwater Artisanal series, it's a dot matrix. It's a black cherry and chocolate stout, 7% ABV. So it's brewed with, obviously, Stillwater Artisanal. It has cacao nibs, black cherry, vanilla, chocolate extract, and lactose as the other ingredients. And it doesn't tell me anything else, but that's okay. It's a black cherry and chocolate stout. I'm excited. 7%, also excited.
Nice. Good. So we come back then very swiftly to Pomona Island.
And it's tasty.
It's a lovely colour. A lot more orange than the Deya. A little bit of a bigger head on there. But nose-wise, it's quite piney, which bodes very, very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
kind
of all I'm getting off of the glass. I didn't get much when I cracked the can, but a little piney nose. Oh fuck me. Ooh. Ooh. That's lovely.
Those are sounds.
Ooh, that's lovely. So I don't know how influenced is my brain after the conversations that we have had on the previous beers. There's this lovely floral hint to this beer, and it's almost got this big strawberry flavour to it, but not super sweet. Like a little bit muted. So it's nice strawberry. It's not too kind of mouth puckering or anything like that, but it's lovely and sweet. With just this nice back kind of floral note. Oh, that's lovely. It's so easy. So easy. I feel like you think strawberry and this big kind of perfumey floral kind of flavour to it. You think it would be a bit like, but it's not at all. It's so smooth, really easy. There's not much of a piney kind of finish on that, but it does just kind of creep in at the back. That those flavours kind of fade and just leave you with just a tiny hint of a piney sort of finish, but not big at all. I mean, it's crazy easy. That's nuts. I mean, if someone passed this to me and I sipped it blind, I mean, I'd know it was a beer, but I wouldn't put it as a dipper. I'd say it was like like a strawberry ice cream pale or something like that.
Okay.
Doesn't quite have the sort of the vanilla and creaminess that you kind of expect from an ice cream, but it has those nice light strawberry flavours. It's got that little bit of a hit to it, just very slightly in that sort of pineness, but there's a lovely floral note in there as well, which isn't like, it's nice and floral. It's not like potpourri sort of in your face really strong. It's just very, very light. I think Aadil, you mentioned lavender as well on your previous beer, and
I said lilac.
Oh,
but...
lilac. Okay, so this is giving me a little bit of sort of lavender in there as well. Again, like
That's a
super,
mosaic.
super easy. Yes, yeah. So yeah, that's lovely. I don't Talus. I'm not as familiar with
No, neither am
as a
I.
hop, but Citra Mosaic and Motueka together seems like a pretty solid combination. But
You do
maybe
see
it's
it.
just that Talus kind of giving that extra little bit of sort of sweet fruit and kind of just combining with that Mosaic for that little bit of sort of floral, piney kind of hit. So yeah, really, really easy. This is lovely.
Nice.
Oh my
Plus
god, why don't I
double
buy
dry
Pomona
hops
Island every
always
single
help.
fucking day?
That's fair.
If only. If only.
Just one beer a day, and every day it's either Pomona or Whiplash. Done. Forever.
I mean, you'd be sorted.
I know.
You'd
Don't
live
know.
forever.
Don't know. There's no point in breweries in Bristol. I'll just go with these ones. It's fine. Talking of Bristol breweries, Aadil will come back to the left-handed giant.
So it's dark.
Mm.
It's almost black. I think just with the light on, you can probably see just a slight hint of the fact that it's not a black drink.
So it is a stout, isn't it? But
Yeah.
did they give it? Because you said about 7%. It's not. They haven't said it's a double stout or an
No, it's not like an
stout
imperial
or
or
anything
anything.
like that. Okay.
Nah, it's just a black cherry and chocolate stout at 7%. That seems about right. It poured almost exactly like this, with just a thin layer of head that just hasn't left. On the nose, you're getting a lovely chocolate. Oh, sorry, it just took me by surprise. At first, I'm like, oh yeah, chocolate. Then there's some depth there. I think it's the more vanilla coming off of it. I think they mentioned they had chocolate extract and vanilla in it. Yeah, and I think that's what's doing it. Probably the lactose sweetness as well. Just giving it a much more rounded, chocolatey nose. My brain is like, and there's cherry chocolate, right? But I think that's just because I've read the tin. I'm not really getting a strong note that I can pick out that can't be washed away with like placebo effect of the tin. Tin-cebo effect. This is going to take me a while to unpack. First sip is on point. Not really surprising, given left-handed giant is left-handed giant. But So the maltiness of the stout is just burnt enough to round out the chocolate. So it's mostly not quite burnt malts, just enough to give it an acridity that really works well with. So like the sweetness of the lactose, the sweetness of the chocolate and vanilla, getting offset by this slightly more acridity in the malts, making it feel like not a milk chocolate, but a higher cacao. I think there's cacao nibs in it too. I can't remember. I'm not going to look at the tin. Don't want more tin-cebo effect. But it just is coming more, it's coming off more like a richer chocolate because of that. It's clearly the roasted notes that are doing that. But it's really well melded. Tastes a little more alcohol-y. I think there's a peaky point to the stout that's being supported by the lactose, supported by the vanilla and chocolate. And so it feels like it's boozier because it's like, oh yes, the sweetness of booze, but it's actually only 7%. So your question about it being like maybe an imperial is actually on point because there's a note in the taste that makes it feel like that, but it's still quite thin in body.
Sure. Okay.
It's not quite as velvety as like an imperial. It just doesn't have enough alcohol to bind to your mouth for that mouthfeel. But that does make it sort of punch above its weight. It doesn't taste boozy, but it does taste stronger because of that sweetness sort of doing a good job with the rest. And also, yeah. So I would say what I like about it is it doesn't taste like those cheap chocolate covered cherries or like a quality street. There isn't even a quality street cherry one, but you know what I mean. Like those thing, you get a box of bonbons style chocolates, and there's the one that's like, yes, cherries.
Yeah, the abomination chocolate.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like that. The cherry's quite reserved, and I really like that.
Good. Yeah.
Do not mix fruit and chocolate.
So if I take if I take a small sip, I can just taste on the tip of my tongue, along with the sweetness, that cherry. Sort of a black cherry type taste, but it's just most of this is that sort of slightly roasted chocolate vanilla melange I was describing earlier, and the cherries are sort of sitting kind of off to the side, or actually coming off to the front, and it's giving it the sweetness just enough tart around the edges to again make it feel fuller. Actually, quite remarkably similar to what I was saying about. I called it the sort of the tangerine sweetness without the citrus. That note working on that pale ale before, being just rounding the flavor out by giving it just a little bit of sweetness, but not making it sweet. Just sort of working really well with the acidity and the sweetness balanced out. This is doing the same type of thing. There's this the cherry is giving a tartness that's helping round out the. It's giving a tartness, but because of the chocolate and vanilla and lactose, it tastes more like cherry than like fake cherry, because there is that tartness. It's just making you feel just like, there's a cherry thing. But what I really like is all that is working together, but it's not the primary taste. So this is like a secondary, almost tertiary taste that you don't really notice the cherry in it, until kind of you've talked this long, and like it's one of the few remaining lingering tastes on the finish. But it's there, and it's so well rounded because of this. Really interesting. You don't often. Well, I mean, I was gonna say you don't often see such nuance in sort of a back taste, but also I think that's just one of the things I learned from our chat with Vault City Brewing. Because Andy, aka Sour Andy, talked about why their sours taste so much like the thing.
Sure.
Is because there is a sweetness. The sours add the tartness, because normally the fruit flavors come off as sweet and fruit flavor, and they come off as fake, and it's because all fruits have acid in them, and the sour having a natural acidity rounds that out and makes it feel more like a fruit flavor. And that's where I learned that piece of knowledge, and I think that's exactly what's going on here. Is the tartness of the natural tartness of the cherry is helping round out the lactose and the other sweetness, so that even though it's a light note, that's kind of, I guess if you're looking for a black cherry chocolate stout, you might be a little disappointed it's not more cherry forward, but it's such a well-rounded cherry that like it's really good. I mean, it's not in the same league as like that watermelon sour from Vault City that was like, oh, this tastes like watermelon in somehow without tasting just like water. How are you magicians? But it is doing the same thing, in the sense of the tartness and the sweetness, and giving it that fuller cherry flavor. And I like the fact that that's happening while being reserved, while being more of a chocolatey, more of a 7% slightly sweet stout, and then it's like with some strong chocolate notes and a cherry hanging back. But that's a real cherry hanging back there. Really, really well-rounded, excellent beer. Yeah.
Good. Nice. Perfect.
I haven't had a LHG in ages.
That's been weeks for me.
Next week we'll all just nail some LHG. The theme of the week. Nice. We'll enjoy these, and we'll move on. Lucy. So, GTA 6.
Oh right.
Yeah, just because there was a report that it's set in Vice City, and it's not out till 2024, which I thought was like quite early.
Well, didn't. The report said something like it's only going to be next gen, rather than like GTA 5, which came out on the last generation PS3. and then they released the PS4, Xbox One versions, and now it's coming also to this generation of consoles,
which is madness.
What
a phenomenally successful venture for these capitalists.
I mean, it's nuts, right? So I think it's going to only be next gen, and one of the things about it coming out later is obviously they can take their point one that they made, I believe. We can take our time with this. We don't need to crunch. We blah blah blah. You know, that we're actually thinking about the criticism that we've kind of had come back. But also, actually, point number two, we're only thinking about money because we want as many people to have the next generation consoles as possible. So we're going to wait as long as possible to release it so more people buy it.
I think this generation will have a long tail anyway, just because the shortages now.
Absolutely.
So less cynical take, I think. Yeah, hopefully they are responding to people crunch. Like they are pretty much a one game conglomerate now, aren't they?
Pretty much.
Where it's like all their studios just work on the one game.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Hope they can take their time for it. I imagine that this game will not be. I don't think it'll be marketed towards me. Just from the pure structure, I imagine it's going to be like a more online focused game.
Ooh.
It's not going to be like it has we're doing a story and then we're launching the online afterwards. I'd imagine they're gearing up for a online living world. So,
but you can still something. Do you think it's kind of like this hybrid that actually is this online living world, but there is a campaign within it that can still be played single player wise?
I don't even know at this point. I don't even know if they have to do that.
Well, something in one of the reports or in some of the chatter and kind of leaks was suggesting, because there was a leak saying that there's going to be a female protagonist, which would be the first kind of written female protagonist, not just Avatar in their online kind of games, but a written female protagonist. And there was this idea that it was, again, like 5, multi-protagonist, and one of them was going to be female.
I mean, that does sound like the cynical way that the company would do it.
I mean, and that was one of the kind of the leaked notes, I think, that was coming out about 6. So it does sound like they are putting in something that is single player-ish or story-based-ish. Yeah.
It seems like a company that large and that has always had, male characters. Not that that's a negative thing. Those games have always been about masculinity. To have that backed up with a substantial online world, because there is the reticence to put female characters front and center.
Yep.
Not because that would suggest, like, monetarily, it's not like they still think, oh, boys will only play as boys and boys only want stories made for boys.
And also all our customers are only boys, which is factually incorrect.
Yeah. There's still that old thinking. But if you've got women on that writing team, when I think of I think Red Dead is such it's a bit weird, Red Dead 2, because it's like their best written game ever, and it was written by the same people who wrote GTA 5.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't understand how you can have GTA 5 and Red Dead 2.
I think because they're very different games, right?
They are.
I remember one of the houses. I think one of the houses is actually Dan. Is it Dan that's actually left now to set up his own game studio?
Didn't they both leave?
Maybe they both left now. Yeah, but I remember one of them came out and said, we're not in the process of writing 6 at the moment because GTA has always been this satire piece based upon stuff and kind of like 3 and 4 and 5 and maybe the first game are based on maybe not so much San Andreas, but are based on like the here and now, right? San Andreas, Vice City are kind of are a bit of a look back, and as we talked about, sort of with those filmic kind of elements to them as well. But some of those games are kind of a reaction to the politics and the world and the culture that's kind of going on now, and you see a lot of that within the kind of the cutscenes and the characters that they try and portray things. And one of them absolutely said, "America is a joke right now.
Yeah.
We don't need to make
Satire is
GTA
dead.
6 because there's no place for it." So it's interesting to see that they are making GTA 6 now.
That's
But-
what I'm saying. It's like such a hard thing to put a story to, you know.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So it's interesting that they're making it, but again, how they've kind of responded to sort of the criticism, but that it's such a different game from Red Dead. Red Dead is more in the vein of Vice City or San Andreas. It's a look back at those.
It's a
sort of
pastiche
time periods. It is a pastiche.
homage.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it isn't just all satire. Like the characters have like pathos to them, and it's
But
like
completely. And you
Yeah.
think how much we, Lucy, you and I, how much we felt for Arthur, and how that game actually kind of hit us emotionally playing through it. I still think it's absolutely criminal that they haven't done like a Sadie DLC or something telling us about what she's up to kind of like afterwards, and jumping into John because he's the familiar kind of character from Red Dead Redemption, and it kind of again shows that the writing team went with what they're familiar with rather than something else. But I think Red Dead 2 is just something else.
it feels like an outlier.
Absolutely, it's this guy.
Even though the first
not-
Red Dead was very well written as well.
It was well written. It was well written, but again, there were sort of like comedic moments to it. What's his face? The Dutch kind of like is this? By the time you actually find a Dutch at Red Dead Redemption, he's like living in a cave on a cliffside. He's in his breeches and some suspenders. And it is more of a kind of like a comedic, look at this old washed out kind of cowboy, hustler kind of character. And there are those comedic elements to it sort of still. But Red Dead 2 just kind of stripped all of that back and went in a very, very different direction. So I'm like really interested in where 6 goes.
Yeah,
because they've said
it's fascinating.
Because they've said that the world doesn't need this satirical take for this video game right now. And yes, that was kind of 2 or 3 years ago. Fine, and the world is sort of moving in a slightly different, or at least the United States is moving in a slightly different direction. But you then have Red Dead, which they can kind of look to and build on. So 6 is this just enigma.
It's an
to
enigma,
me.
yeah, at this point.
My cynical brain is saying, oh, it's very convenient that Trump was a very special president, but it's telling that these GTA 5 has some libertarian vibes from at least 2 of the main characters,
Yes.
and it's kind of telling that they're like, we have a story to tell now that the Democrats are in charge and there's a bunch of spending on people and social programs. I hope that's not the case, but like, again, a large part of this, I think, is not actually the Republican-Democrat flip so much as the cartoonish, somehow human to actual president trying to get things done, and not succeeding very much because of the structure of American politics. We don't need to get in there, but like, there's an actual adult in the room running the show, and the more information we get out of people, the more we realize that like how much people just put up with exactly what you would have thought Trump would do, but you assumed he couldn't have gotten away with it for 4 years, but he did. And that's the, like, there's no space for satire, but like, so cynical me is like, oh yes, it's cool because we can just make fun of the government spending it and things trying to get on track. But regular me thinks that's also kind of the case just because the world is less cartoonish.
Yeah,
we still have
and
QAnon,
we'll be even
but-
further removed from that, hopefully, in 3 years' time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So like we'll still have QAnon, and we have like MTG. I can't remember what her Marjorie Taylor
Marjorie
Green is that
Taylor
her name?
Greene? Yeah.
Yeah, like you still have people like that, and they still like use up news cycles, but it's very different amount. The proportion of the news
Absolutely.
cycle used up by the nonsense is not there, and so maybe you can. Now there's like I think like you said, Lucy, in a few years there'll be space to satirize this problematic thing over the other side because there's space kind of in between. There's breathing room. So that's why I think maybe it's not as crazy to think that if the goal of a GTA game is to satirize the now, that there. But again, this brings me to my previous point. I talked about GTA 5, and it just it tried to jump on two different filmic bandwagons, and by the time it was out, the time was gone. And I think it'll be very hard, given that we're in this liminal space between. The world is so cartoonish and ridiculous. There's no room for satire because the newspaper is essentially satirizing itself. To whatever the new normal is, you can't. So they won't know what the degrees of difference are by the time the game comes out, and we don't actually know if the new normal.
They've gone back to Vice City though.
Yeah.
Like,
I would really like to see a not current Vice City again. To be honest.
Ooh, just a 90s cocaine-filled.
Oh, are you saying
Florida.
that they're going? Was that the story?
No,
that they're in Vice City.
No, I'm saying
it is modern. It is modern.
Yeah, I'm saying I would
is?
like. Yeah, I'm saying I would like to see. Yeah, like you said, Ben. Not necessarily all the way back to when GTA Vice City took place, but go to Vice City at a time that we are far enough removed that you can do the filmic homages and some satire, and it can have links to satirizing today, but you aren't stuck with being so close to today and us being in this really weird space with the transition from the cartoonishness with 2 years of pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is going to be a really tough sell comedically.
That's why I see them not even leaning into that. That's why I see them just having like this open Fortnite world or something.
Just
Destiny
GTA Online, the game.
Yeah, because it seems like such a tall order to, like, as you say, like, I didn't know it was like present time. I thought they might have been going back to the 80s or something like that. I mean, Florida just seems like its own separate joke. Even
Maybe
more
that's why they're
ridiculous
saying
than the rest of the US. Yeah, it seems like Looney Tunes town. It seems like in Roger Rabbit when you go into Toontown, that's just Florida. It just seems like a mess there.
Remember, was it San Andreas where you had the mission to burn all the weed fields and he got high in the hills, in the Californian hills? Like, you just imagine, like, now it's like, got no money, I'll just go and juice some oranges and pick some oranges. That's the satire. It's you just doing regular jobs because no other fucker wants to do them. But it's one of these things as well.
The wrong person every time.
Pulling on all of these films that they have done previously, and all of this kind of like media that they have to build up on this. What do we have now for them to pull from? There's been this very kind of like barren element for like modern, real world set films. It's all superheroes.
Film,
it's all kind of.
It's gonna be Avatar too.
Yeah. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, if their best games are ones that borrow heavily from filmic. I mean, I just critiqued 5 for trying to do it in a bad way, but like the biggest wave outside of superhero films, which they can't do because Saints Row, which was the series I was gonna say is one we should all go back to, but put a pause on that. They need to do medieval GTA and satirize The Witcher and Game of Thrones and what is that time travel romance one?
I mean, Monty Python's already done it, right?
Outlast. Yeah, but that's fine. Like,
Highlander.
It's fine.
It's either that or go cyberpunk.
Oh god.
Just make a broken mess of a game. and it'll still sell like 10 billion copies.
I mean,
Fuck if
it's Rockstar, doesn't
Rockstar
matter, does
just
it?
rebadged the patched version of Cyberpunk 2077 and called it GTA 2077, fuckers would still buy it and complain,
Yeah.
but still buy it. Yeah. But well,
I
so
have
long
no
as you
idea
could
what
get
this
in,
game's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be.
I mean, you can get in other people's cars, can't you? I played the game for 50, 40 hours.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
If they like
Yeah, you can.
actually render in the world, I'm sure you could.
They're not up here. You have to jump to get in the car.
I'm kind of sad that on the PC it just didn't suck like it did on consoles. I feel like I missed out. So when like people talk about Cyberpunk, they played a different game.
Mhm.
I played
Yeah.
something that was, except for a couple really annoying kind of quest-breaking bugs and stuff, and the odd getting jammed up in the geometry, which was actually pretty rare. I just played a meh game set in a
Sounds
really
even
cool city.
worse. Yeah.
I know, and then I looked at all the other people, they're like, "Oh, fuck this game! People teleport around you and they jump around." I'm like, "What a great game! You shouldn't play. Be happy with what you got. This game sucks. It's boring. You got teleporting people."
It's true though.
Why
You'd
the
rather
days-
play like an awfully bad broken game than something that's just middle of the road. Nah.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
best version of Cyberpunk 2077 is the day one PS4. And I've never played it. I don't even know if it
Just
starts.
no
but I
characters
stand
move.
by it.
They just float. Just T-pose floating characters the entire time.
Oh, I did get a T-pose.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think in
yeah,
all the games I've ever played, I've never had a T-pose.
what?
Just
You need
seems
to
like
play more
PC.
janky. But you
I
play.
need to
Oh,
play
you
more
don't
on
play.
PC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to play more on the PC, and you need to play more like. I really wish I was making a AAA game, indie developer games, because you play all the indie developers who are like, indie games that are like, I can't make that game. I'll make this game.
Yeah, they know
And
their
it's great.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to
Yeah,
play
I've
more
never
jank
seen a
shit.
T-pose, yeah, never. I have
Oh.
people like clipping and like standing on a table,
Yeah.
like in a cutscene or something.
Just a gun sticking
never a
through a wall
T-pose.
because they
Yeah.
got lost in the
Uh,
geometry.
I've never had the fame.
How many
T-pose.
Unity games do you play
I don't know.
with
I'd have
people
to
in?
check.
Because
I
I,
don't
think
play games with. I play games with like
Yeah.
shapes and
Numbers.
furries.
That's some different games.
An
I
anime
played a game of
game.
shapes today too, but I don't want to segue into it if we're still talking about what we want from GTA.
I
So
don't
I'll
know what I
butcher the
want.
segue.
No,
Yeah,
please.
just go for
Please,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. You played a game with furries.
I played a game with shapes.
Oh, okay. Same thing.
I played a game on the Switch called, why am I
Ooh.
blanking on this game?
Thomas was
Induction.
Yes, Induction.
Induction
yes.
game.
Mm. Did it break your brain like it did mine several years ago?
Induction is an abstract puzzle game about time travel and paradoxes. As you master its logic, Induction will rewire how you think about cause and effect. I got an hour and a half into it. I got stuck on the last couple levels I was on. And I did say it was wrinkling my brain. And then I was like, it was like an hour and 40 minutes, and I was like, oh, I'm actually like, I could feel that there's a drain to streaming that always happens, but like that game's drained my brain as well, and so it was like social me. Like I realized that like those two levels, I was just like, and even when I figured it out, I was not like explaining it to the camera like I normally do in puzzle games. Like I'm gonna peace out because this is no longer like good content. But I really liked it. So basically, the premise is you are a cube, and you are a red cube, and there will be a rotating white cube somewhere in the level that you have to get to, and you just like lollop around, like you use the left stick and you roll around the level. It's very simple looking levels. It's actually a grid-based game, so one tap on the L stick will move you one square. This is important for timing and calculation purposes. And you basically, so there's things like push a barrel into, there'll be like a little white outline of a barrel, and there'll be a barrel, and you push a barrel into that white outline of a barrel, and then a gap between two platforms will fill in, and it'll probably be at that space because so basically there's like usually the goal is going to be obviously locked away either by empty space such that you can't go because there's no bridge, or like height or something else, right? And so basically you roll around and you can push objects can make bridges out of nowhere. You kind of know where they are because the structure of the levels will like taper by, say it's a platform, then a break, and then another platform. If there's a bridge, it's going to probably have the last row of first platform will sort of have the two corners missing, so it looks like the beginning of a bridge, rather like you can see that this is a shape that could continue on, and then on the other side it'll be the same width, and then the rest of the platform will be one brick longer, wider on each side, so it looks like a bridge, slightly narrower than the rest. I don't know if I'm making sense. Basically, there's visual cues that kind of easily show you that like there's probably a bridge here, and then you see things like outlined cubes means a cube will have to go in there, and so what I loved about this is there's a running joke, especially when you play a lot with indie games, but like every video game it has crates and barrels, especially in the indie scene, and it doesn't make sense. Like so many barrels and crates don't make sense when you think about why would there be a crate here in this middle of this scientist's house next to the observatory in this horror game. Video games got crates. Shut up. And I realized halfway through the stream that like you're pushing a crate around and you have to nudge barrels into spaces, and those are the interactive things. It's literally just crates and barrels, and I thought it's just so wonderful. But the main mechanic is you can move around and then you hit A and you will spawn a phantom cube, which will then go through all of the movements you did up until that point. So you make a ghost. But when you do that, all the bridges that you activated and all the barrels you've moved reappear, and some of the bridges disappear as you walk over them. So if you hit A, they'll reappear. And the puzzles are entirely about the loop.
Yeah.
And it gets real interesting. So like a casual loop will be like, like one of the puzzles was like a straight platform, then a drop, and then an outline of a barrel, and then a straight platform, then a drop, and then a couple squares after the drop, an outline of a barrel, and you've got a barrel in front of you. But if you just push the barrel forward, it's going to hit the drop and fall, and then you can drop down, but there's no way you can get behind it to push it into the spot it needs to make the bridge after the second drop. So what you do is you go around the barrel, drop, wait a bit, then go down to the other drop, wait a bit, and then push forward, and then get out of the way, and then you hit A, and it spawns the barrel back in its place, and the square, and this time your pathing cube will push the barrel, and you have to basically rush back to the spot in line with where the barrel will fall, and you will be the extra bit.
So yeah, your physical cube will be the extra one for it to then move.
Yeah, so then now it's going to push it over you and down, and now you can push the barrel back into formation, and so your path then loops around yourself so that you can then do the same trick, and then your ghost will push the barrel back over. You have to be in place during the loop to be stepped on, so the barrel will fall in front of you, so you can push it forward into the outline, and then you can go around it and go on the bridge. Like it's basically you are making the gapped space with your head, but you have to think of how to solve the puzzle, and then you have to go through the motions, and then you have to think about where you all need to be, and then you have to precision time sometimes your actions during the Phantom is going to do exactly what you did to the second. And so you have to plan around where you're going to be, and that can get really tricky. And then I think my one big complaint about the game was it sort of told you X rewinds the whole thing, and it says L when you fuck up on the first couple levels, and you hit it and it kind of bounces back a bit. But it never really tells you that R goes forward. And so like for the first 10 levels, I'm like, I have to get around this way. I don't quite know how long it'll take, and if I miss, because I'm notoriously bad at these, it's like an isometric camera angle, and I can't see the depth quite well, really, sometimes. So I often miss. So I'm giving myself long pauses in my original path so that I can make sure I get in the right position. And then I get to the position fine. I'm like, I waited too long. I guess I'll just watch. And then like 12 episodes, 10, 12 episodes, levels in, I hit R, and R's fast forward. And I was like, oh. But more than that, yeah, but also you look in the controls, and the controls literally just say like left stick moves. It doesn't even say Y exits a level, X spawns your dude. Like in the menu, looking under controls, it has none of the actual like functional controls to stay in the level. But once I figured out, and then it took me a few levels to figure out that actually I don't need to pause and wait, because R is just literally moves the game forward in time, so I can get to position, hammer on R, then move around, and functionally in the game I haven't wasted the time in my gameplay. And then if I've hit it too many times, I just hit it that many times when I'm in the loop, if that makes sense. Like once I've spawned the thing and it's doing its thing, it's going to wait 20 seconds because I hit R too many times. Oh, well, I can just hit R. And again, because it didn't really cover this in any sort of tutorial, if I go too far, I can immediately hit L and go back a few seconds. So I can really fast forward, rewind within the loops. And instead of like, oh, I screwed up, reset the loop, which is what I was doing earlier. And that was kind of disappointing because it would be so easy to tell you. And like actually, once I figured out how to do the like last couple levels when I was struggling, I realized that I didn't have to reset the level. I could rewind for most of the time. I could kind of rewind to a point, and it was worth rewinding to that point versus, I guess, I have to do the whole thing. And one of the things that was nice, quality of life wise, is hidden in the menus is add a grid. Because again, it's just like single like plain colors and like really simple. Really like the like color blocked aesthetic. But these later levels are like kind of precision movements. Like at one point you have to basically you trick. It's going to be really hard to describe, but basically you do a loop on the available squares you have. But what you do is you make it so that your phantom block will step onto a barrel, and then you move the barrel while it's waiting, and then it hops onto. So you did your loop sort of on the bottom half of the screen, and the top and the right side has like a whole path you can be on, but there's a big gap to the left side on the left side to the top half, and so you can get your brick to the right, your ghost to the right side by doing a whole bunch of movements, getting into position, getting a barrel into its way. So instead of falling down, it falls onto the barrel, and then you had waited, so you move it all the way up past the gap, and then you yourself in your loop went back on the bottom left, but you've put the ghost on the top left, and now it's moving another barrel to do another thing.
Yep.
And like so it looks like you're a raving mad person, and then you start it, and then your ghost comes along and you move it, and it does all these things. And then it turns out you have to. This was the one that really stymied me, because after doing what I'm assuming sounds really complicated, that I thought, because so the end of the levels end when your block gets into this white square. That's the goal, right? So I'm like, I figured this out. Cool. I will put the ghost into there, and that's when I found out the ghost doesn't count.
Oh.
Yep.
So then there was an entirely second part of the loop, which was getting the thing back onto the barrel, because it turns out it gets on that platform to link another part of the thing up, which lets you get up back on top of the first platform on the bottom left, such that you can then basically get yourself on top. You have to push the barrel back while it's making the new bridge or whatever, and then you swing back and you get on the barrel and you trick your ghost to then push the barrel with you on it back up the platform.
Jeez.
And again, that entire cycle has to happen before you have access to the extra parts. So it was counting squares to be like, okay, I need to put this as close to the barrel as possible on my first run so that I have the depth to make it move the entire gap between the left sides, so that when I'm on the barrel, it'll get me so that I can just I got to one square on to the platform, and then I could run to the thing. It looks really elegant when you like watch it do the thing, but it was such a pain to figure out, and then to be let down and to figure out, okay, well, how do I do this extra bit? Yeah. Oh, okay, I need this gap is like 5 squares long, so I need to figure out how do I trick my ghost to push me the 5 squares. Really gratifying, and I'm sorry if this explanation is kind of real abstract. There's no real way around that. Definitely look up the game, look up like a YouTube video of some early level gameplay. It was super fun and hard. This is the thing, like it took me a while to think around, and like I liked some of the design of the earlier levels. Sorry, let's finish that. So that sucked. And I stared at it for a bit, and then I went in the menu to look for the controls to see if I missed a thing, and that's when I found out that like even left and right weren't bad. But once I figured out that they were literally just move the clock a second, move a clock a couple seconds or whatever, fixing that really crazy convoluted loop didn't take nearly as much effort as I thought once I understood what I was doing, because I was just fast forwarding and rewinding.
When I played this game back in 2016,
oh wow,
actually, a
PC game, right? 2017.
Well, my first achievement unlock was May 2016. I maybe because
must have been beta,
early access.
Yeah.
Steam Greenlight back then.
I don't know. I
whatever the fuck these things are called.
I think I got a code from the developer. Maybe
we're double dipping.
Huh?
Said, we're double dipping 5 years later or whatever.
Met the sole developer Brian Gale at EGX. Super affable but very shy guy, but yeah, really nice. Got a code off him. Yeah, I remember playing this game, having that same revelation as you, Aadil, and having that same, oh my god, this is hard as balls kind of realization. And obviously, if I did play it pre-release, there was no videos around then.
Yeah, of course.
There's still no walkthroughs around now, which I realized because I saw that like I went back to play it in 2017. And jumped off again. I saw on the Steam discussions someone saying, "I've been stuck for 2 years." So I jumped off the train quite early because I was like, I can't wrap my brain around that. It's a sort of puzzle. Like there was this game called like A Fold Apart or something like that. I played like the first 2 levels and I was like, my brain just cannot comprehend it. It's like my brain is not wired in this particular way, and this game is definitely that. So
I mean,
that was my experience.
Yeah. I really liked it. I liked
concept. Yeah.
The concept's really cool. What I don't like is, and I think I said this on the stream, but like, I mean, that's why I ended the stream, because it's like, I can tell, like, I did that level, and I really like struggling against it, and then the next level I did, and it was like, and I realized, my brain is like, this is just one of those games you have to put down. You're not gonna, like, you need just to be fresh.
Just that time. Yeah.
Not only if you've banged your head against it, but like, so usually I say like, hey, if you get stuck on a puzzle, just walk away, come back, because you won't have the preconceived notions. This is definitely one of those games, but also I think it just drains your like it just is it's hard. It drains brain power. So not only are you worried about like fresh eyes, but actually fresh brain, which most puzzle games aren't this draining. I think it would. Those last two levels took a bit out of me. But the
Yeah.
other thing I would say, which sucked, is like there's a couple points where like so where I left it because your map basically your levels is like a little shape. It looks
Yeah.
like a path, and then like after
I think
five or
even
six,
that confused me.
yeah, I like. There's like no signposting in this game, which is
Yeah.
kind of disappointing.
And he's updated it in the years since. I think he's updated it like 3 times this year.
Yeah.
So those things were like controlling the flow of time probably weren't in
Weren't
the
there. Yeah, I
version
wouldn't be
that I
surprised.
played. So
Just because like the prompts
Yeah.
didn't really match the aesthetic, and there wasn't
Mm.
even a prompt for R. There was only a prompt for L. But like, there's one point after 5 or 6 levels that he's like, "Oh, a new path," and you get on it, and then it's two levels and it dies, and you're like, "Oh, I thought it was going to extend." Okay, so then these were bonus levels,
Mm.
and then you go further, and then I got to a point where it's like, another divergent path of 2, and a huge swoop on the left. And then there was still like wants to be like 15 more levels to who knows whether that'll re-swoop on my main path. I was like, I don't know why. Like it seemed no rhyme or reason on why it would go either way. I mean, I like the puzzles, so I tried one on the tiny offshoot, but it was just it was just given how much my brain power was being used to try and like. So like I stared at the puzzles, being like, okay, I'm here. What do I think? And then I would try a run just to see how far I could get, and then I would spawn my dude to see where I was versus where it would be, etc. Like stuff like that. And then I would inevitably actually start to try and make something happen. But
I think this is a game that is made by a genius and was play tested by another genius. The early levels seem like late game, end of game kind of difficulty. It seems like this game is like I'm stupid. I can't even conceive how one would make a puzzle game and make the puzzles interesting. So, how you can make this and see, make it and then see the workings of how someone would get to the end and how this actually doesn't just fall apart and it works.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know. He must be like Stephen Hawking's like child or something.
So what I like about the level select screen, just to go back a sec, is you go to a level and it shows you your replay.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So you can see your path through, and you're like, oh, I did it this way, including the long pauses. But I lost my train of thought. I was going to say another thing to your point, Lucy.
It's like a very confusing Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yes. So the lack of signposting on even the level select and like the controls it sucks because so much of your brain is being used to solve the puzzles and to like figure it out that like it'd be nice if there was quality of life stuff like these are the things you can do versus so the last level I tried before I was like the last level I tried instead of so normally you have the outline of the barrel. Instead I had an outline of a floating hexagon.
Oh.
And on my platform was a barrel and a 1 level extra of platform. But it looked really strange because like, there's no the aesthetic has the top parts of the square not have shading, just the bottom parts for the depth. So the sides will be a different color than the top.
Mm-hmm.
But that means a 1 segment up block looks like it's contiguous with everything around it, and it just wrinkled my brain. But it was just literally a 1 block up, and I figured out how that the hexagon needed a block on top of a cylinder into its space.
Oh my
Make the
gosh.
bridge.
Okay.
And so I got on the platform, waited for a bit, got off the platform, started my dude, moved the barrel into where I would get off the platform, and then moved my phantom on the barrel to the requisite spot, and it did the thing. It made the bridge. So I dropped down a level, walked across the bridge, and then it just spun there. And I was like, it's spinning like the level should end. Is this a bug, or have I fucked up a new mechanic? I don't know. And then I was like, oh, and I did it a second time, and it did the same thing. And I was like, I literally have no idea if this is a bug. Because when you go into space, like you've got a little dot on you in the middle, and like the space, the goal space kind of has like 7, 8, I don't know, some number of dots making a circle, and you go in the middle. When you go in your square, your dot's in the middle, and they all spin around, and it like fades to white, or something similar to that. So it did the spinning, but it didn't fade to white, and I was like, "Are you introducing two?" The game is so convoluted. I was like, "Is this two mechanics?" And I've done half of this level because this seems short, but it was the little offshoot. Or is this bugged? Am I supposed to... And then I was like, am I supposed to get the crate in here too? But it... Because what happened was it kept playing afterwards, and then the thing disappeared, and it just flashed the box at me, the clone, and I was like, I don't know what this means. and my brain is tired, and so I was like, I am done now.
Yeah.
And it's the lack of signposting throughout the early parts of the game that, like, I think it's a bug, because it did the spinny thing, but maybe it's not. Maybe, but also it would suck.
Your ghost guy just wasn't happy.
That's it.
Yeah, but it would suck if they were adding the hexagonal outline and another mechanic to finish in the same level. That would be really tough.
I don't think I got that far.
So like I just didn't know, and I was like, but that's going to be one of the things that's going to prevent me from really going back, right? Is this the lack of signposting to the point where, like, I don't even know if I've figured that out. Well, now I'm not sure about all the other levels, like which sucks because it's it's an older game on a different platform, and we play it, like, this is the Switch release. It comes out tomorrow, which will be 2 days ago when you hear this. If you're not on Twitch right now,
it's like Lemmings for Mensa.
La Mensa.
Yeah.
Box
yeah.
quote.
So I liked it. I'm gonna try more. I definitely think this is like a small burst thing. How long to beat has exactly one entry.
Oh.
One level will take like 6 hours.
And the how long to beat has one entry, and it said main storyline 12 hours 30 minutes. And then I stared at it and I'm like, I don't know how many levels there are. I don't even know what this means. This is such bad data. One person could have like done it all, like, first attempt and been a genius, or or I was like 7 levels to the end and they struggled. Like, who knows what one end? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just I laughed out loud at
waiting
that.
for 2 years.
But like, but the 2 year. Oh, that was the thing I was gonna say. That's the part of that I dislike. Like, we've talked about puzzle games where if you do an extra bit, you get like coins or something to unlock the next level, so you can kind of keep going forward without perfection. And this game has no time for that. You play the level
by level. Oh, wow.
Hence the being stuck for 2 years, and that sucks because it was like if you like, I hit a level and I was like, I don't know, and I went back to the map. I'm like, oh, I'm streaming this game. I guess I gotta know. But like, if I wasn't streaming, I probably would have just turned the game off. Like, and that sucks because that was the one where I had to loop twice and move both my clone on a barrel and then me on the same barrel at different times in the loop and figure out the timing, which was very gratifying afterwards. And but
yeah,
like, I would have taken a break, and I might not have come back.
Yeah,
just because the quality of life isn't there, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm glad that you took the code, because I probably would have got to the same point as last time and just thought, I'm too dumb. It's sort of like Baba Is You, when you just can't see the answer and you just don't know it and you'll never know it. Some games, like, I've got all the puzzle pieces, I just need to put them in the right order, but something like that, my brain just cannot comprehend, and I will never comprehend.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is like, Babas, you had different paths or stuff. And so, like, even if you didn't need to do another level, you could bounce to another level.
Exactly.
So I think that's what the part I got to was trying to do is like, hey, if you're stuck, come to these 2 levels. And then I was like, I'll come to the first of those 2 levels. Well, because it made 2 different paths. And then I don't know if I finished the level. And then I was like, I'm done. Would you... right? Like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. Or you're trying to tell me I didn't pass because big giant question mark? Or are you trying to tell me you passed, but I'm broken? Like, it's just not. And again, it's I don't even know if it was a bug or a goal because there's no signposting in the rest of the game. If there was if the design space included some signposting and this isn't a bug, then I would have something to cue myself onto. Oh, I've missed a goal, but now I just don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I'm guessing it's not a bug because an entire level.
Maybe see if there's a patch in a few
On the
days'
Switch,
time
yeah.
or when it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So
Induction.
that was induction. Yes.
Induction to Mensa.
Me.
So that's probably us this week. I think not only has that game drained your brain power, the conversation around that game has probably drained all of our brain power as well. I definitely feel that is it's one of those where you're following what you're saying and understanding it, and then hitting a point where you're like, hang on. Oh no! Now he's explained it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, okay, yeah, and it ticks over in your mind. It's not even just the game; it's then the conversation.
I mean,
about
we're
the
also
game,
talking about. I'm trying to explain a very complex, abstract game of a mechanic that I didn't like. I struggled at this point. Here, let me tell you about it, and then. How do I do this? I'm going to use words and hope that these words paint a mental picture of this abstract, fucked up puzzle with time loops.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if this makes sense.
Good job. The only reason I had any idea what you're talking about because I've played it before.
Yeah, that's why I feel bad for the podcast.
Even still refreshing my memory, it's like, yes, you did explain it well. But
nice.
It's an impossible thing. I would have said cubes. Cubes. Cubes.
Good.
Donkey Kong.
Good. Perfect. It's a good place for us to jump back into our beers. Aadil, yes.
What I just have to say, I did some digging, and I have to report that there was a short-lived live multiplayer online thing called Fear Online for less than 8 months.
You have to play it now.
So I have to play it now. But it's been discontinued since 2015.
Well, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Someone
Anyway, I
finds a way.
Anyway, so it turns out, boy, is that just what people do. I joked about it. I'm waiting for... So GTA Online is already a thing, so we have to play that because Lucy mentioned GTA.
Yep.
Oh, no.
So where is Saints Row Online? It's the only series we've mentioned that doesn't have a live online thing yet.
I think they're making a new one, so...
Oh yeah, it'll be Saints Row Anthem. You play as Iron Man.
Yeah. Let's not get into that one now. Hey, I can't remember what the characters were called in Saints Row. Biggest Dickus and
Johnny Taco, Johnny
Mnemonic,
what was his name?
Johnny Cage. It could be fucking any Johnny, couldn't it? To be fair, Johnny was the ultimate word. I assume that was the joke. But let's finish by talking about our beers.
Johnny Gat.
Yeah.
Gat. Oh yeah, because it was Gat of Hell, wasn't it? The extra. Little bit that came out, yes. Let's talk about beers. Beers. Lucy,
yes.
You only had the one beer this evening.
Yeah.
But would you call it a beer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's your favorite beer of the day then?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No choice, but it was nice. Yeah, I did like it.
Would you have it again on a warm summer's eve, or is it a winter day session beer?
we can drink beer all year round
Oh,
as
that's
we
true.
cruise on this podcast. I think that's a very much refreshing summer beer. But
Okay, good.
yeah. Red Stripe, you do good stuff.
Nice, good.
Hmm.
Aadil, we'll come to you then.
Ooh, it's tough. I think I'm gonna pull a wild move and say the
It's a
Dot
stout.
Matrix is the superior beer.
Yeah.
But I actually, given that I don't know what's going on at Fierce and Noble with this drinks for you, this was surprisingly good for a. It literally is drinks for you is the name of the beer or the name of the brewery. Like, it's so strange. I don't know. And I actually think it's worth. I mean, not just because of the cats. I think it's worth tracking down. It's a really tasty beer. Also, if it is just by Fierce and Noble and unbranded, which I doubt is the case, I think it's better than most of the stuff of theirs I've had. I've never quite cottoned on to. This is just a really good beer. It's not like in the tier of Left-Handed Giant beer, but this is really good, and I think it's worth supporting. And if it's Fierce Noble, that's great. Like I said, I think this is a good beer, and it's worthy of elevating. So I'm gonna pick that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the stout was definitely.
Oh, fucking great beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cheating, right? Because I'm like, this is so good. Find this beer. It's like a stout that tastes light and won't fuck you up in the way that, because it's only 7%, and it still hits above your weight. It's great, but also I'm picking this other thing.
I mean, the cats. That alone.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, it's justified. Absolutely justified.
Yeah.
For me this week, it's very easily the Pomona Island.
Yeah,
First big weekend. Look at
I
my.
want it to be the weekend.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I've lost track.
We're getting close. Ish. Lovely flavour. Loads of strawberry in there. A little bit of lavender as well. Gave me this nice floral hit and flowed through those flavours quite well. The Deya lives in that earthy space that Deya have been putting beers out in, and lots of other breweries have moved their kind of dippers towards North, Verdant. Loads of them are pushing out these more earthy kind of beers and have been for a little while now. And I think with my dippers, I love a juice bomb. Let's go back to 2018,
yeah.
19,
I think 18.
one of those, yeah, sure.
I
Let's
think
go back there and have all the juicy
17 or
dippers.
18.
Yeah, and I'll drink those all day. But first big weekend, not a big juicy dipper. Nice, light strawberry and lavender, an interesting combination of flavours, and one that is done by them very, very well. Did not know either beer, to be fair, was a double IPA. Didn't get the booze off either of them. So if you're looking for something a little bit bigger that doesn't present itself as much and you love strawberry, then hit the Pomona Island. If you like those earthy, slightly more ripey kind of melon notes, then the Deya is for you. But for me, it's the Pomona Island this week.
Did well to topple a Deya, but there you go.
Absolutely. And it's going to come from someone like Pomona Island or Whiplash, or, these breweries that just bash out consistent beers, that suddenly one of them is just going to be like, bam, this flavour is just something else, and is really, really good. So, yeah, not massively surprising, I think. So, if you've drank any of the beers that we have this evening, if you drink other beers that you think we should be looking for and drinking, then you can get hold of us in lots of different ways at Tanked Up Cast on Twitter. You can get us at Out of Lives Net on Twitter as well. And we are all at outoflives.net, the website that the podcast is thrown up onto, where you can see our lovely faces. You can also go to the Out of Lives YouTube channel. We are there too, plus other things that we do. We are here every week on Twitch as well, as are other things that we do, like Aadil's First Looks, where he plays Induction, the game he talked about this evening. You can go and watch him play to see what he was talking about over on the Twitch, and at some point that will be smashed up onto the YouTube as well, if you're not so au fait with Twitch and you prefer YouTube. Sure, do that. You can get all of us individually. I'm at Nova_47. Aadil is at the Omniarch. Lucy is JuicyLoose9. If you want to help us out, rate us, review us, subscribe, do the thing on the service that you are looking at us, watching us, listening to us from. That would be very, very helpful. How do I feel like you've got something you No? Oh, okay. Or come and chat to us in the Discord. If you want to come and chat to us on a daily basis, do that. We've got a Discord. You can come into our server and chat to us whenever you like about beers or about games. Aadil's just linked it perfectly in the Twitch chat. So if you are watching us on the VOD or Twitch, there it is. Do it. If not, we will have that linked somewhere else. That's all of the things. That's everywhere you get us. That's the beers. That's the games. That's us. Do either of you have anything you'd like to close the show out with this evening?
Words of wisdom. Just be good to one another.
Perfect.
And Ender Lilies is really good.
A game I assume you'll come back to in maybe
I'll
another
talk
couple
about
of
it
weeks.
next week.
Next week.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'll have finished it by next
Nice.
week. Very close. That's it.
Aadil?
Play games. Be nice to each other. Fuck racism. No.
And don't stick a flare up your ass.
that
But
would
if you
be
stick something up your ass, make sure it is flared at the base.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. Don't just go fucking fist first into that.
This is important for retrieval purposes. This is a thing. This is why anal plugs and dildos are formed differently.
End it.
I'm glad we weren't there for this week. We've been tanked up by
www.outoflives.net